Coming to you live here from Northern Israel with another quick update on what's happening in the Bitcoin and altcoin cryptocurrency markets, as well as the overall traditional markets on April 2nd, 2025, which is so called Liberation Day in the United States, as declared by the current president, Trump, in his second term as president. And he has declared this day as Liberation Day, supposedly in an effort to help boost the U.S. economy by announcing all kinds of investments from foreign companies and countries that have announced already previously that they're going to invest hundreds of billions or even trillions of dollars. In the case of the United Arab Emirates, which has said that it's going to put in something like 1.4 trillion. Saudi Arabia has said they're going to put in 600 billion. And a bunch of different chip makers and car makers and all kinds of companies have announced that they're going to be moving massive amounts of investment into the U.S. over the next 4 years while he happens to be president. Some of them have said they will extend further than that. But basically, it's a commitment to invest more into the U.S. over the next 4 years, because that's how short-term American thinking is. Right? They don't have long-term strategic thinking like they have in China or Japan, where they think decades or even a century out. And in any case, so yeah, these were previously announced investments, but I guess today is the day chosen to celebrate that fact. And in addition, today is also the day in which a number of tariffs supposedly go into effect. The U.S. is imposing on many countries, I think pretty much everyone. There are a few exceptions to the rule. And, people who don't like the tariffs are saying, look, this is going to cost the American taxpayer because ultimately it's the consumers who paid the tariffs. And then you've got people who are like, no, we love Trump and everything he does is great. And, if you live in America, buy American. Okay, well, it's, frankly, it's a very naive view of the world. A lot of things you can't buy in America because they're not made in America, or you can't buy it made in America. For example, one product that you can probably live without, but you can't buy from any other place is champagne. So let's say you're having an event and you want to have champagne. You can only get champagne from France. You can get sparkling wine from other places, right? You cannot get actual champagne because to carry the name champagne, it has to be bought, has to be made in France, right? Just like to carry a certain kind of, or just to buy a certain kind of, soy sauce, it can only be made in a certain way in Japan. Okay, there's all kinds of products like that around the world that are made locally and sold globally, but made locally. Anyway, on top of that, global trade is global, and it's not just consumers buying stuff from overseas. The businesses that make the stuff that you buy stuff from companies overseas to make the stuff that you buy. For example, just buy American. Okay, so I'm going to go to the car dealership and buy an American car that says made in USA, that was assembled in the USA. If you know anything about cars, you'll know that there's not one car manufacturer, not one, that makes all of its components. Not one. And you'll notice there's not one car manufacturer that not only makes, doesn't make or that makes all those components, but that they actually buy parts from companies overseas. Around the world, every car company, including companies that make cars completely by hand, they still buy parts, right? Whether it's raw materials or semi-finished products or finished products, there's not one company in the world that makes cars without buying something from a company overseas. And thus it raises the price of that car. So you might buy an American car with a 25% tariff on it on foreign cars. Guess what? There's a 25% tariff on your American car because it has components made in other countries. And no, they're not just going to charge you the tariff on just the components made overseas, even if the car says made in USA. And you could argue that, and you can be like, wait a minute. It's only this small component that's made overseas. Why should I pay 25% tariff? Tariff is a tariff. So suddenly your, $10,000 car is now $12,500. I mean, obviously, cheap car, obviously, is an example. But now your $100,000 car is $125,000. You don't like it? Welcome to reality, right? I'm not saying that they're all bad or whatever. Like, I get it. I understand people want to, support the idea for whatever reason. Ideologically, they're aligned with it. But tariffs are ultimately paid by the consumer. And the businesses that pay the tariffs when they import the goods pass those costs off to the consumer, right? They make sure the consumer pays that, because why would a business pay that? The business is just making the stuff to sell to the consumer. They're not going to pay an extra 25%. Yeah, there's some businesses that might eat some or all of the costs. They are extremely rare. The average business will not do that. So we'll see what impact this has. The bottom line is, and the markets have already priced this in. Okay? And people are freaking out. Oh, there's greater uncertainty now. Trump wants to crash the markets. Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't really matter. Okay? The markets have priced in the volatility. Okay? Not all the tariffs, not everything about the tariffs is necessarily negative, but the reality is it will increase costs on goods and services. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. And by the way, it's a two-way street. It'll do the same to all the other countries too. It'll increase their costs on goods and services, which means Americans will buy less products. They think they'll buy less products that are made overseas, but actually they won't. They'll still continue to buy products that are made at least partly overseas, and they'll still pay tariffs on those things, even when it says made in USA. And the same is true for other countries where people will think they're buying less American-made stuff, but guess what? The stuff they're buying also has American-made components. So they will also pay tariffs on those goods. And it hurts everybody. There can be reason to the madness, but it doesn't matter. It's been priced in. Is that good for crypto? Is that good for Bitcoin? I actually think it is long-term good for crypto and Bitcoin. So I'm not some 100% anti the whole thing. I'm just pointing out the facts. That's all. Anyway, that's going to do it for now. Enjoy. Happy trading.